the psychology of complacency, which is the reason why societies slip through revolutions. And this is the quiet enemy of progress. Great people, great humanity. Throughout history, the downfall of many societies has not always been caused by external enemies or catastrophic disasters. More often, the greatest threat to the progress of civilizations has been something quieter and less visible, which we refer to as the complacency. Complacency is a condition in which individuals or societies become satisfied with the status quo and lose the motivation to question, improve, or challenge existing systems. It is the psychological state that encourages people to accept circumstances as they are, rather than striving for better alternatives. In many ways, complacency is the social equivalent of sleep. Just as physical sleep suspends the body's awareness of its surrounding, social complacency dulls the awareness of citizens to the realities unfolding around them. This condition is precisely what the story of Rip Van Winkle symbolizes. Because Rip did not actively oppose the revolution that transformed his society, he simply slept through it. His absence from the defining moment of the community's history was not the result of deliberate resistance, but rather the passive withdrawal. Similarly, many societies today do not intentionally reject progress. Instead, they drift into a state of indifference where important decisions are left to a small group of powerful actors while the majority of the citizens remain disengaged. Understanding the psychology behind the disengagement is essential if the societies hope to overcome it. And this is the comfort of routine. Human beings naturally seek stability and predictability. Routine provides a sense of security that allows individuals to navigate daily life without constant uncertainty. However, this desire for instability can also lead to resistance against change. When people become accustomed to certain social or political arrangements, they may hesitate to question those arrangements even when they are clearly flawed. In many communities, citizens accept poor governance, corruption, or economic inequality simply because these conditions have existed for a long time. They become part of the normal structure of the society. This normalization of dysfunction creates an environment in which meaningful reform becomes difficult. Great people. People who challenges the system may be viewed as troublemakers or unrealistic idealists. Yet every significant reform movement in history began with individuals who refused to accept the status quo. The comfort of routine, therefore, represents one of the most significant barriers to social progress. Fear of confrontation is another factor. Another factor contributing to societal complacency is fear. Many people fear. Challenging authorities often carries risk. Individuals who criticize leaders, expose corruption, or advocate for reform may face social isolation, legal consequences, or economic retaliation. In environments where political institutions are weak or where corruption is deeply entrenched, these risks become even more significant. As a result, many citizens choose silence rather than confrontation. Silence, however, creates a dangerous vacuum. in public discourse. When voices of accountability disappear, corrupt systems become very stronger. Fear therefore becomes a powerful tool used by unjust systems to maintain control. Overcoming fear requires collective courage. When individuals realize that others share their concerns, the perceived risk of speaking out begins to diminish. Movements for social change often begin when individuals discover that they are not alone in their desire for reform. Then we have the illusion of powerlessness. One of the most destructive psychological barriers to civic engagement is the belief that individual actions cannot influence large political or economic systems. When citizens believe that their participation does not matter, they withdraw from public life entirely. This sense of powerlessness may rise from repeated experiences of political disappointments. Elections may fail to produce meaningful change. Government promises may remain unfulfilled. Institutions may appear resistant to reform. But over time, citizens begin to view political participation as pointless. However, history demonstrates that collective action can transform societies. Major social reforms, from civil rights movements to democratic transitions, were achieved through persistent efforts of ordinary citizens who refused to accept the idea that their voices were insignificant. The illusion of powerlessness therefore represents a psychological barrier that must be challenged through education and civic mobilization. Then we have distraction in the modern age. The modern world presents a new challenge of civic awareness, that is constant distraction. Technological advancement have created unprecedented access to information and entertainment. Social media platforms, television, online content, or digital communication occupy a significant portion of people's attention. While these technologies provide valuable opportunities for communication and education, they also have the potential to distract citizens from serious civic issues. Political developments that shape the future of societies often receive less attention than entertainment content or celebrity news. When public attention becomes fragmented and superficial, meaningful engagement with complex social problems becomes more difficult. Citizens become informed about trivial matters while remaining unaware of policies that affect their economic and political future. And therefore, this phenomenon represents a modern version of Rip Van Winkle's sleep. Instead of sleeping under a tree in the mountains, many individuals today experience a form of intellectual sleep induced by constant distractions. The role of propaganda and manipulation. Complacency can also be deliberately cultivated by those who benefit from public disengagement. Political actors sometimes use propaganda, misinformation, or divisive rhetoric to manipulate public perception. Instead of encouraging citizens to focus on issues such as economic, policy governance reforms, or institutional accountability, manipulative leaders may emphasize emotional narratives centered on identity politics, fear, or conspiracy theories. These narratives divert public attention away from substantive policy discussions. When citizens become emotionally invested in identity-based conflicts, they may overlook governance failures that affect the broader society. This strategy weakens democratic accountability and strengthens the power of entrenched political elites. An informed and critically thinking population is therefore essential for resisting such manipulations. Then we have the silence of the intellectual class. Intellectuals, that is the scholars, journalists, educators, and writers play a crucial role in shaping public awareness. Their work helps society understand complex political, economic, and social issues. However, when intellectuals retreat from public discourse, societies lose the important source of guidance and critical analysis. This retreat may occur for several reasons. One, some intellectuals may fear political retaliation. Others may become absorbed by the academic specialization that isolates them from the public debate. In some cases, intellectuals may align themselves with political power to exchange for personal benefits. When intellectual leadership disappears, misinformation spreads more easily. Public discourse becomes dominated by slogans and emotional rhetoric rather than thoughtful analysis. The absence of intellectual engagement contributes significantly to societal complacency. The cultural acceptance of corruption is another factor. This is a factor that sustains complacency in many societies. Is a normalization of corruption. When corruption becomes deeply embedded in social and political institutions, citizens may begin to view it as unavoidable, which is very, very, very embarrassing. Phrases such as "that is how the system works" or "nothing can be done about it" reflects a resignation that allows corruption, or rather the corrupt practices, to continue unchecked. Yet corruption is not an inevitable feature of governance. It persists primarily because societies tolerate it. When citizens demand transparency, support investigative journalism, and hold leaders accountable, corruption becomes more difficult to sustain. Breaking the cycle of corruption, therefore, requires a cultural shift in which ethical leadership becomes a widely shared expectation. Awakening from complacency. The first step forward overcoming complacency is awareness. Citizens must recognize that their participation in civic life is very key. Education plays a crucial role in this kind of process. Civic education helps individuals understand political institutions, economic policies, and social responsibilities. It also equips citizens with the analytical skills necessary to evaluate political claims and resist manipulation. Community engagement is equally important. Public forums, civil society organizations, and grassroots movements provide platforms to collective action. And therefore, when citizens come together to discuss shared concerns, they begin to overcome feeling of isolation and powerlessness. Gradually, complacency gives way to participation. The lesson of Rip Van Winkle revisited, the metaphor of Rip Van Winkle remains a powerful reminder of the consequences of disengagement. Rip did not intend to miss the defining moment of his society's transformation. He simply withdrew from civic life and allowed time to pass. By the time he awakened, the revolution had already occurred. The world he once knew had disappeared. Societies today face a similar choice. They can remain passive observers while powerful forces shape the future, or they can awaken to the responsibilities of citizenship and actively participate in building a better society. History rewards those who remain very awake.